So why is addiction like a black hole? It's often said that hedonism, the pursuit of temporary pleasure, is like a black hole. And a black hole is something that the more you feed it, the bigger it gets. And you'll find this out for yourself when you continuously feed your addictions and your vices. The hungrier you will get, the more you will desire, and the more empty you will become. And like a black hole, this will siphon all of your life energy until there's nothing left. A black hole is infinite. There is no bottom. So we must ask ourselves, how low do we want to go? Rock bottom is just a state in which we've temporarily had enough, but we can keep going lower. Sometimes we have to experience a certain level of suffering to get us to change. Sometimes we are fed up and done with our addictions, but our addictions aren't done with us. The suffering that our self-destructive behavior creates is a tool or a mechanism to humble us and to grow our character. Because without suffering, there would be no reason to grow. If everything was comfortable and easy, well, then we would always be complacent and just have no reason to strive for something greater. So instead of focusing on how to get rid of the addiction, instead of resisting so much on trying to run away, take a step back and just sit with yourself for a moment and try and understand what this self-destructive behavior is revealing about yourself. Because it's exposing a character flaw, something that needs to be changed, a part of ourself that is not sustainable. Like a cancerous tumor that is slowly but surely infecting our whole body, every other aspect of our life. So yes, we must cut out the tumor, we must get rid of the bad behavior. But until we understand why it is there in the first place, it's just going to return. And where we have to look is often the past. Why are we the way we are? What am I seeking in this self-destructive behavior? Why can't I deal with the stress of life? Why am I not happy in the present moment? Why is there resisting? And even who is resisting? Who is suffering? Pay attention to self-reflection. Because the more we self-reflect, the more we reveal the unconscious parts of ourselves. The parts that continuously sabotage our aspirations for growth, that continuously hold us back and keep us from living the life we truly desire. And oftentimes we will blame other people, and we will take on this identity of a victim so that we will avoid facing our own actions. And this is a great key or a piece of the map to which we can find the root of the problem. Begin reflecting on the ways you blame other people. This person does this to me. Society is this way. The government oppresses me. It's the capitalists. That's a big one for people. If only I had money, then I could be who I want to be. But because I'm poor, I have to be this way. Because the moment you become aware of this victim identity of how we blame others, only then do we have the opportunity to take responsibility. And once we take responsibility, we can change. We can change ourselves. And it's only when we change ourselves do we change our reality, our life. And oftentimes with self-destructive behavior and addictions, the consequences of our actions continuously get worse and worse as time goes on. And the last consequence is always death. And you may even see yourself each time you get closer and closer, things get worse and worse. And so if you don't take the time to stop and pay attention, then we can just wander and drift right into death or right into prison. I heard a great quote at some point that when you're down, don't get back up so quickly. Stay down for a moment. Understand how you got there. What actions led to this place? Because what you will find is that when you do something stupid, when you do something really bad, it's never that one day you just decided to do this thing that ruined your life, or that could potentially ruin your life. It all began one step at a time, one choice at a time. For days, even months, sometimes years leading up to this one decision. That's why self-awareness is so important. Because if you don't see yourself doing these things, then one day you'll find yourself in a place that's so terrible, and you'll question, how did I end up here? When the answer was with you every step of the way. Reflect on your actions. Reflect on the words that you speak and the thoughts that you think. How do you feel on a daily basis? Why do you feel that way? If you do not feel happy, if you do not feel at peace, then there is something that needs to be addressed. Because happiness and peace is the default state. And I'm not saying that we should necessarily be happy and peaceful all the time. We need a bit of spice to life. We need to change things up and experience the full breadth of human emotions. But happiness and peace should be the baseline. It is what we should fall back to. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we disturbed? Why are we depressed? Why are we miserable? What is it about this character that I'm playing that is causing so much suffering? Write in your journal. Contemplate and think about these things. If you were to focus your attention mostly on self-reflection, you would discover so much valuable information that you could begin creating any life that you desire. But if you don't know yourself, then you won't know where you are going, and you'll wander and drift through life. You'll take a path that somebody else created for you, and you will serve your life for somebody else's purpose. And so, do you want to be a slave? Ignorance is slavery. So, the more aware you become, the more you can create some space in your mind through meditation and just observing your thoughts and your emotions, observing yourself, seeing yourself from a third-person perspective. You can begin unveiling your patterns, your tendencies, and your habits. You can see which ones are not serving you, and you can begin focusing your attention on changing them. There is something called the downward spiral, and this is typically when one wrong decision or one wrong action leads to a string of bad decisions, and things get worse and worse and worse and worse until you hit that kind of rock bottom. And again, this is because of the black hole. It is because of chaos. And we have to understand and remember that it takes no effort to fall down, but it takes a lot of effort to rise up. So we will fall to chaos and negativity by default. And so if you don't consciously do something about it, if you do not take your power and own it, if you do not control your energy and direct it in the ways you want, well, then you will by default lose it. And one helpful way I've begun seeing is that every drop of entropy in our lives compounds exponentially, and the weight becomes more and more unbearable. No different from a black hole. When you're far away from the center, you have freedom, but as you get closer and closer, the pull becomes heavier and heavier. The gravity becomes irresistible. And you may find this for your own life. If you have, say, a problem with drinking, and this is your big addiction that you want to let go of because it's ruining your life. Maybe you binge drink for days at a time, or maybe you just sustain but are almost always in a state of drunkenness. Then this is the singularity at the center of the black hole. And so you're trying to get free. But to get free, we often have to address the other aspects of our life that are creating entropy, because one bad decision leads to another, and ultimately it ends in our greatest addiction or self-destructive behavior. So what I've done in my life, I addressed the simplest and easiest thing that is creating entropy, that is depleting my willpower or stealing my energy. You may even make a list of all the things that bring you down or that you know is not really benefiting you. And you stomp the easiest one first. Because chances are, the stronger addiction you have, the more difficult it's going to be to break free from its grasp. So the key is eliminating as much entropy from our system as possible. And say you have 5 actions that you know you could stop doing. Once you address the easiest one first, then the second one becomes that much easier because you have freed up some willpower, some energy. You become stronger. And step by step, by the time you've eliminated the other things in your life, this last great addiction that you've been struggling with, it's not so big and scary because the weight and the gravity is not pulling you down so heavily. You have more power to escape the pull of the singularity. And once you're free enough, you can't go back. You may be able to dance around the edge without getting pulled in so easily. But all it takes is just one stressful moment or one stressful day, and down you go. So our goal should be eliminating all vices. But you have to be in touch with your feelings in a way, because your feelings and emotions will guide you to whether or not a decision was right. Because if you feel terrible, if you feel fearful or guilty or shameful, well then how could that have been the right move to make? It's been said that a good tree cannot bear evil fruit, and an evil tree cannot bear good fruit. These are laws of the universe that are set in stone. And sometimes we can ignore the feeling, or maybe we don't even realize it. Maybe we just feel so terrible all the time that we don't recognize that it's our actions that are causing it. And again, we can blame other people, and that will forever keep us trapped. But what's great is that the more aware you become, the more you start paying attention to things, it becomes much easier to stop doing things that are obviously creating so much suffering in your life. And yes, some things will be ingrained in our brains as habits, and it will take more effort and energy to break free of them. But when you just realize that there are many small, stupid things that we do on a daily basis that we can just stop doing. This may be stop ruminating on things that we have no control over. Stop watching the news. Stop letting the fear in. Stop complaining. Stop wasting our energy on things that serve no purpose. Because that is what a lot of this comes down to, is that we are wasting our energy on things that do not serve us. And the more energy we waste, the less willpower we have to avoid these self-destructive behaviors. And so again, we have to start plugging up the leakages in our boat, because with each hole that is letting the water in, it becomes exponentially more difficult to not sink. And if we allow this to go on for too long, then it becomes a very likely possibility that we will drown. And at the same time, we can start implementing behaviors that give us more energy. When you exercise, sometimes you drain your energy in the short term, but it gives you more long-term energy. When you rest, when you meditate, this gives you energy. When you avoid eating too much food, when you can eat in the proper portions, that will give you energy. When you tax the system too heavily, it takes time to recover, then your resources are now designated to dealing with the overabundance of food in your system. When you're always thinking all the time, when you have a never-ending stream of thoughts, thoughts are electrical impulses in the brain. The brain uses an overwhelmingly large amount of our energy. The more we can stay present, stay silent, the more energy we will have to focus on creative things, on creating more energy, more positivity. And it's all just one step at a time. Our lives will improve one day at a time. And you will get encouragement along the way. Sometimes you might go in like a sine wave pattern where you feel like you're making progress and things are going good, and then you feel like you've backtracked, like you've lost progress. But with the right perspective, progress can never be lost. Because each time you fall down, there's a very important lesson to be learned. The information found in the darkness is often the most valuable. When you fail, you learn what not to do. Each act of failure is simultaneously learning how to succeed. Many people often just sit and resonate with thoughts of being a failure, that they're no good. We have to remember that every thought that we think, every word that we speak about ourselves will become our reality. Whatever we believe will become true. We like to think that we are logical beings looking at the world objectively. We have science. We have the power of the mind. But often this is just a coping mechanism to the fact that we really have no control over many things. That in reality, we do not experience an objective world. We experience our inner projection that we cast out onto the world. We are experiencing ourselves. We experience other people, and we say we know them. And this just helps to give us a sense of ease and peace, to avoid the realization that we actually know nothing. Because the ego, the mind, it needs to have the sense that it's in control, that its identity is valid, that I know who I am, I know what I'm about. And there's really nothing wrong with this. It's just you want to kind of be able to see the truth so you're not living in illusion. On one end, sure, have a strong identity, be grounded in, this character that you want to play, and at the same time realize that it's just a character. The actors on stage play their roles. They play them to the best of their ability. But when they walk off the stage, they don't go home still pretending to be the character they're playing. And so, if you don't like the character you're playing, well, then maybe it's time to write a better one. I love going back to the Jim Carrey quote where he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but depression is kind of like your soul saying, I'm tired of the character that you're trying to get me to play. I need deep rest from this illusion. Because the person is believing it with 100% of its being. But the soul knows that it's not the truth. And so this is what happens when we live lives that are not fully authentic. There's a mismatch between our reality and the reality. And so it's like almost we're grinding against life, or we're grinding against the universe. We're out of the flow of things. That's why it can feel like life is just a struggle. You're always trying to just get by. You're clawing and scraping just for an ounce of happiness or pleasure. There's always this sense of desperation. And that is often why we turn to addictions and vices. It's because we simply can't cope with facing the reality that we are living. That we are not being our true selves. Because our true selves do not need anything. We need nothing to be happy. But we always need something to be miserable about.